These two paintings are connected by two boys of almost the same age, and by the very different worlds Frank knew as a child, and then later created for his own son. The story began when Frank was 12 or 13. At almost the same age that Frank had struggled to give form to a world of fear and destruction, Adam was growing up in a very different world, one in which a child could imagine, choose, and create. Years later, Frank painted his son doing exactly that. Today, Frank, we're going to talk about your early work and the direction it took you, and from where you began as a 12 to 13-year-old child to basically today, and how that those early influences in your life affected everything you still do today. So we're going to look first of all at three paintings. First one is the Apocalypse. This is quite a strong painting. Second one you call the Atomic Bomb. And then the last one I'm going to show right now is the one that you have where it's called Sunbreak. It's one of your really beautiful, truly lovely paintings that you painted in the last year or so. The dog painting was your very first painting. I believe you painted that when you were 12 or 13 years old. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. After you did the dog, then the next painting you did that we have a photograph of is the one you did of your mother. And it's not a finished painting.
No.
But you were only 14, I believe, when you did that?
Yes.
The third painting now is the cabin painting. And the cabin painting, you were 17, I believe that was 1964, or that you would have been 18 then, 18. So what we're showing here is the example of the difference in when you first painted to by the time you were 17, you'd accomplished quite a bit. Now, these are photographs that we have. We do not have the paintings ourselves anymore. The next painting we're showing is what we call the Atomic Bomb. Would you like to tell us about that? I believe you were 14 when you painted the Atomic Bomb.
In the beginning of the history of my involvement with the arts, there were several motives in my life. One was I was trying to acquire brushmanship, absolute driven, almost frantically to be as good as I can possibly be. And at the same time, I was also inspired quite a bit by meaningfulness in the paintings. I wanted to have the feeling that I actually had something to say.
You left Hungary when you were 10 years old and came to Canada. There was a very unpleasant circumstance that you left, which was the Hungarian Revolution, and basically I believe you left in 1956.
Yes.
Do you think that that affected this painting?
Being involved and having been literally shot at by bullets while I was in Budapest, it certainly left me with a feeling of a disgust for war, and a seeking the idea of what is it that we're actually pursuing in war against one another. So I was very strongly influenced by aesthetics, and I was also influenced essentially by the idea that I should also be meaningful and had something to say. When I came to Canada, I saw how beautiful life can be without having to scrounge for onions in the field because there was nothing to eat. And at the same time, there was a psychological stability to philosophical feelings of empathy, feelings of love, feelings of gratefulness to be alive. And I think that I want to present that in the atomic painting, behind the light of the divine forces, essentially. And I use my family as a source of projecting a heavenliness as opposed to the atomic side.
The apocalypse. You were 18 when you painted that?
About that, yes. I think that I was very much influenced by some of those elements of negativity and angst, etc. But I think it was buried. It was more like a troubled sea I had no idea I was in. In those days, there was quite a bit of fear of the nuclear holocaust, because I remember we had to get under the desk just in case of a big atomic, like it would really help.
What did you spell out with the blocks that were coming out of the head? You were obviously a young man with a
view.
with a desire to shock.
I think that I must have had, well, yes, I think, because basically I want to be a nice fellow all my life. I had the feeling of love, quite a bit of love in me. But at the same time, I want to sort of say, well, wait a minute, I've got some strength in here too, and an opinion. And as the face, as the head fell down, the eyeballs fell out of the skull, the ripped side of the figure, which was more like a rubber, like in heats, like basically hanging off the building. But nevertheless, I want to show that the head was almost like heated rubber, and out of that, to symbolize the intellect that's contained in the skull, I basically used the idea of dice being actually falling out of the head, except that in the letters, the way I spelled it out, I put an opinion. I said, fuck society, but I didn't want to put it so obviously so that a child could read it. I made the letters spell it out. And for those who would take the time to look at it, I think they would discover very quickly so that was my big statement.
Since that time, I don't think you've ever done anything that was disturbing or scary or whatever. So what's the motivation? What are you trying to create in this world?
To me, art is a language. It's as much of a language as philosophy is, or politics, or it's the language of beauty. And the language of beauty, to me, has wisdom. It's the life-centered philosophy. And so I could explore the notion of beauty, painting beauty, being motivated by beauty. Inspiration was basically my source of power. Inspiration was my direction. It was a guide. It was my teacher. It was a goal, a destination that I was driven by and led by. So yes, I always want to paint the beautiful things. So I would recommend that basically people should put on their walls images that elevates the soul, not brings us down. So that's what I would say about it in a short way. Art essentially is an intelligence. Art is essentially an emotion, an inspiration. Well, it's supposed to trigger us into self-awareness and inspire us to elevate our souls.
The last painting that we are showing today is one we call Atom on the Globe, which is a painting you did in the mid-80s sometime, not sure exactly when. So your son was about 9, 10, something like that. So tell me about that painting, why you painted that painting.
Atom on the Globe was a painting, I think, that I wanted to do because I wanted to basically picture a better world for my children. I put him on top of the globe, and I put him on a very nice sunny day where it was hopeful. And the world that he's constructing is a puzzle. It's not all answered, but it is obviously something that he can manipulate.
It's up to him.
It's up to him. And it's up to every one of us.
Do you say that from the beginning, from your painting that you created when you were the first painting, 12 or 13 years old, you're coming back to a different reality for your own son, that you were able to bring him from where you came from into a place which was much more conducive to his thriving?
Well, I was hoping to bring that about as a possibility for my own children, but I do not exclude anyone else's children. I think that every child is a child of God, and if it offends somebody that I'm saying that, too bad. I believe that there's a universal intelligence that holds the whole cosmos together, and I think that our consciousness is an example of that, manifestation. Yes, I think there was a full circle completed with that particular image as an example. But the thing that made that possible in the United States, and it's possible here too, is the fact that liberty was the basis of existence.